Hello and welcome to the 2026 Opening Day Countdown, a series where we count down to opening day by previewing all 30 teams in MLB. Yesterday we spoke about the Toronto Blue Jays, and today we'll be talking about the Philadelphia Phillies. Last year the Phillies finished a record of 96 and 66, first place in the NL East, but they lost in the NLDS to the Los Angeles Dodgers in 4 games. I say there's a ton of pressure on the Phillies this year to sort of win the World Series this year, just because like they've been at it for a while and they've gotten close. They made the World Series in 2022. They also made it to the NLCS in 2023, but they still haven't like won that title in a while. So I'd say there's something like a lot of pressure to basically go big or go home this year. And uh, without further ado, let's get into it. So the hitting side, there's a lot of guys with the potential for regression. Like for example, like there are only two like hitters who are above average by BFIP plus. BFIP plus is a stat that I created that essentially looks at strikeouts, walks, and barrels. Free passes is basically barrels, sorry, walks and paid by pitchers. Free passes, and it looks at these three numbers to basically determine an expected WC plus. With Schwarber, for example, WC plus is 152 last year. Based on these three numbers, his expected WC plus or his BFIP plus was 161. So basically expected to be a little bit better. But only Schwarber and Harper were expected to be better than average last year. Stott, pretty average. Adolis Garcia expected for a bounce back, but guys like Bohm, Trey Turner, Brandon Marsh, Edmundo Sosa, to some extent, also like all like projected for a little bit of regression. And because of that, I feel like the Phillies are sort of the offense like isn't that great. I know like in past seasons it was a lot better, but this year it doesn't really look too great. Like if you look at the platoon splits against righties, they do have Bryson Stott, who is above average slightly, 111 WC plus and 101 BFIP plus, and Adolis Garcia as well, like 89 WC plus but a 101 BFIP plus. But then against lefties, it's like Schwarber, Bohm, who is like good offensively against lefties, but against righties, you see like not great at all. And then Harper, who's just pretty good hitter, and then Ichiro Muto, he had a 64 WC plus last year, but a 102 BFIP plus against lefties. But against righties, Real Muto, 107 WC plus, but a 91 BFIP plus. So if you look at it overall, it sort of like cancels out like 94 94 WC plus and BFIP plus. So basically, he was lucky against righties, but unlucky against lefties. So it basically canceled out for him overall. That not many many like top end hitters. Like it's really just Schwarber and Harper who are carrying the load. And Stott is good, but he's probably gonna get platooned. I'd wager with probably Edmundo Sosa. But like Sosa again, like against righties, like this doesn't really matter. Like 83 30 plus, 76 BFA plus, that doesn't really matter. But because he's probably gonna be on short side platoon, but against lefties, he had a 146 series plus last year, but only an 81 BFA plus. So he's someone who really overperformed against lefties. And then also Trey Turner, Otto Kemp. Like Otto Kemp is another guy who's projected to be on the short side of platoon, especially because Johan Rosas, who was originally going to be that guy, he got suspended for PED, so he's going to miss the first half of the year. So Trey Turner, like pretty good against lefties last year, but was low average by BFA plus. Same with Otto Kemp, although Kemp small sample for him. Yeah, it's a pretty. I'm not a big fan of the offense, but they do have some guys coming up through the pipeline. But the thing is, I'm not too big a fan of those guys either. Like their big guy coming from AAA is Justin Crawford, top 100 prospect. He's gonna most likely gonna be playing center field for them. 133 jersey plus at AAA last year. But his BFIP plus is only 96, so he's actually very lucky according to his strikeout walks and barrels because he hits the ball on the ground like 60% rate, so he doesn't like strike out that much. But he's not like hitting for that much power at all. But it's mostly just like singles, which I get it. Like the BABIP is gonna be high, and like BFIP plus doesn't really look at BABIP that much, so it's definitely possible for Crawford to overperform that. But it's 96 BFIP plus at AAA, and you're gonna expect like a drop to the big leagues, of course. So yeah, not a great offense, but the pitching staff last year was very good for them. If I'm gonna switch to the starting rotation, but the thing is that last year they also had Ranger Suarez, who's a very good arm for them. If I include him, you can see like 320 ERA last year, 314 BFIP, and 150 innings. That's is actually sort of like arguably like the fourth best starter in that rotation. But again, like it's still like a very good arm. But you're losing out on him, and then it's Wheeler who you're also like missing the first month or so, 1 or 2 months. He was very good last year, like very consistent arm. But now you're not really sure like how much you're gonna get from him, just because this year is gonna be short year, and then he has stated that after 2027 he is gonna retire, and the 2020 season may not even happen due to the lockout. So Zach Wheeler, very good arm when he's on the field, but unsure if he will be on the field. Chris Sanchez was I believe, like top 3 in Cy Young voting last year. Yeah, he actually finished second, so he's the runner up to Paul Skeens. 250 ERA, 282 BFIP, and 200 innings. Like he was essentially an ace last year. Like a ton of innings, very good run prevention on a rate basis. But again, like, can he repeat it? I think he probably can. Maybe not to this extent, but he's probably like a 2.8 ERA or maybe a low threes ERA next year. And then Luzardo, ERA last year wasn't that great, and actually bump in Nola as well. Like Nola, like very bad ERA last year, but BFIP for both of them is much higher. Like at least a run. Like for Luzardo, it's a run difference. 392 ERA, 295 BFIP, so expected ERA was 295 for Luzardo, and then Nola projected to be an average arm. 392 BFIP is around average. BFIP minus 94 means like earned your projected ERA is 6 percentage points lower than average. And then you have it's gonna be Sanchez, Luzardo, Nola, and Walker in that rotation. Walker is fine for a ERA 452 BFIP. And the fifth man in that rotation is gonna be another prospect. It's gonna be Andrew Painter. Painter last year spent the entire year at AAA. He wasn't the top prospect he used to be. He was still solid. Like 540 ERA, it wasn't that great, but 442 BFIP. That's 95 BFIP minus. So essentially, an average arm at AAA. So essentially, he's a replacement level starter, I'd say. Maybe slightly better. And replacement level arms, in my opinion, are probably like Taiwan Walker. So like 4.5 ERA in the big leagues is probably his median outcome, I'd say. Although he could be better, of course. He used to be like a pretty highly touted prospect, but he could also be a lot worse, of course. As for the bullpen, the Phillies do have a very good bullpen. I feel like the bullpen has been one of the weaknesses in the past, but now it's one of their strengths. Juan Duran, he was acquired from the Twins at the deadline for Mick Abel, an arm I really like, and then Eduardo Tai, catching prospect. 206 ERA last year for Duran on the year. 256 BFIP. All his peripherals are around the 3.25 ERA range, so I expect him to have around a 2.5 ERA next year. Insane stuff from Duran. Very, very good stuff. Like, gets a ton of strikeouts, not many walks. Keeps the ball on the ground because he has like a power like sprinkler. He gets a ton of ground balls. But then around at the bullpen, you also have Brad Keller, who's also a very good addition this offseason. 207 ERA, 316 BFIP. He was someone who was projected to potentially move back to the rotation and potentially be signed as a starter this offseason, but he ended up signing in a relief role with the Phillies. Very good reliever last year. Sort of broke out, and I think he'll continue to be good. And Tanner Banks is another good arm. Ryan Kirkering, pretty rough moment in the playoffs last year, but still a good arm. 330 ERA last year, 377 BFIP. Very good fastball sweeper combo. And Kyle Backus is a lefty that I really like. 462 ERA last year, but 378 BFIP. You can see like the ERA estimators are not too high on him, but BFIP was good, sub 4, and I think he's a good arm. And then Bullen they acquired for Matt Strom this offseason. He's another solid arm. And Jose Alvarado, very good stuff, but again, like he only pitched half the year last year because another PED suspension. like 3.81 ERA, 3.99 BFIP. Maybe pitchers like this. I'm not too sure. Like I think he's a fine bullpen arm that's probably going to be pitching leverage this year. So yeah, onto the pitcher lineups. JT Realmuto catching every day. Like they signed him this offseason for a pretty hefty price tag. I didn't really like it too much. It was a little bit too much for my taste. But is still like a solid hitter. Still a pretty good defender, although he has declined in recent years. And just like an average hitter, decent. Like he's already like familiar with the pitching staff as well, so that you are getting a benefit from that. But yeah, he's playing every day. First base, Bryce Harper. I know comments from David Nebraska have said that he's not elite, but I think he's still relatively elite. Like I don't think he's like to the level of Schwarber, for example, but I still think he's a very good hitter. Like 131 WC plus, 134 BFIP plus. If against righties, of course, 147 BFIP plus. Against lefties, not as great, but still a 118 is still above average. Second base, I have a platoon of Bryson Stott and Muno Sosa. Again, like Stott, like sort of overperformed last year, and Sosa definitely overperformed last year. You can see like 146 WC plus, only an 81 BFIP plus for Sosa. But they don't really have like many other options. Like you can see, only 14 names that I included here, and one of them is suspended for half the year. One of them is Dylan Moore, who is a non-roster invitee, so he's sort of like I sort of just have him like in a bench role. Like you can see, like he's like on the bench just because they don't have like many guys better. And then Garrett Stubbs only one plate appearance, and he's also a catcher, so he's like their emergency third string catcher. So only like 11 guys who you can expect any sort of reasonable outcomes out of, and yeah, so you're really like straining the your hitting depth here. Third base, Alec Bohm, again like not great against righties. 88 BFIP plus, but against lefties he does mash lefties, a 120 BFIP plus against lefties. Bohm, I don't like if this was like more sustainable, I'd rather just have Sosa instead of Bohm, to be honest, just because Sosa is a better defender at third base. And like against righties, like you can see pretty relatively comparable against righties. And then against lefties, like if these were comparable, then like the expected stats, and like if the expected stats were closer to the WC plus, then it would just like rather just have Sosa every day at uh third base, and also like start 91 BFIP plus against lefties is still like pretty solid. So I don't like it. Sosa every day at third base, Saw every day at second base. Like that's something they could have went with, but Bohm is. But I just don't really know like what to make of this roster, to be honest. Trey Turner, everyday shortstop. Like he's someone who overperformed last year. 125 WC plus, but a 96 BFIP plus. So like projected to be an average hitter next year, but still a good defender. Still steal some bases. He does like all of the things well outside of hitting, and also he's a guy who like because he puts the ball in play a decent amount. Like he's probably gonna, and with his speed, he's probably gonna get a pretty high BABIP. So Trey Turner is still a solid hitter. Left field platoon of Marsh and Kemp. Uh, the thing about the outfield, like I'm just gonna cover all three. Like Crawford, I think is solid. Adolis Garcia is okay. Marsh and Kemp is okay. Like I would have really liked to seen like Gabriel Rincones, who like spent the entire year at AAA last year for the Phillies. He had a 113 WC plus last year, but 133 BFA plus. And the thing is, like he had like pretty drastic platoon splits, so he's pretty bad against lefties, but extremely great against righties. So because of that, I think he probably would have been at least average against righties in big leagues. In my opinion, he's very similar to like I'd say like Dylan Beavers, in that like heavy platoon splits, a little bit of homers, a little bit of stolen bases, probably like 15-15 at peak. So yeah, Rincones is someone I really would want to see, but I don't think like he already got optioned. He's probably not gonna start the year on opening day roster. Like Marsh and Kemp, like against righties, Marsh is fine. Like 130 WC plus last year, but 95 BFA plus. So another guy who's like very lucky against righties, and then against lefties, Arto Kemp was also like pretty lucky, but still like one of the better bats against lefties, and then same with Marsh against righties, of course. In center field, Justin Crawford again, like he had a good WC plus at AAA, but like BFA plus not so great. And then in right field, Adolis Garcia, like at least he was average by BFA plus against righties last year, but against lefties, 65 WC plus, 89 BFA plus, and also you're sort of banking on him to have some positive regression, which given his age, given his like recent downswing, no guarantee that happens. And then DH, Kyle Schwarber, like one of the few bats you can probably depend on in this lineup. Like 161 BFA plus last year against righties, he was it was 162. Against lefties, it was 164. The reason why like it was like 162 and 164, whereas this is just 161, is because this BFIP is based on the average against right-handed pitchers, and then this is the average against specifically left-handed pitchers, whereas this is like sort of overall. So, for example, like lefties, so left-handed pitchers performed like much better than righties last year. It's like the raw value, 630. This number is basically what the expected ERA would have been if a pitcher only faced this specific hitter. So you can see like the value for Schwarber was 630 against lefties. Against righties was 692. Even though it was lower, you can see the BFA plus is actually higher. And that's because like lefties, the average like left-handed pitcher pitch better. So the average left-handed average hitter against left-handed pitching, needs this value is gonna be lower. So this number compared to lower average is gonna be higher than this number, which is compared against a higher average. Yeah, anyways, that's the hitting staff. Onto the pitching staff. Chris Sanchez, opening day starter. Luzardo, Nola, Walker, Painter. I really like the first two names. I think Nola can bounce back and potentially be average. But Walker and Painter are like two big question marks in the rotation. I do think when Willard comes back, it'll look a bit better. But it's still like really only 6 names you can sort of count on in the rotation, whereas last year was only like 6 as well, but all 6 were healthy for pretty much the whole year, whereas this year you don't know what's gonna happen. Like Wheeler is already hurt, like maybe Painter gets hurt again, or Walker gets hurt, or like Nola. Like any of these guys could get hurt. Like no way to know until the season happens. So ideally you want more depth, and they don't really have that depth. So yeah, pitching staff a little bit of a concern, but still like pretty good if it all goes right. So Juan Duran as the closer, Color and Alvarado as the setup man. So again, like these 3 arms, very good. Like I'm a big fan of Duran and Keller, 2 guys that they added in the past year. Alvarado has been on the team for a while, like former closer of the Phillies. Not the best numbers last year, but still like average. Like knows how to handle high leverage situations. So probably have him in there. And Kirkring, Banks, Backus, Bolin, also like rounding out the bullpen. And then one more guy I want to touch on, Zach McCambley. At this point, I don't think it's confirmed he's going to be in the bullpen. I'll have to double check, but he was very good last year at AAA for the Marlins. He was selected by the Phillies in the Rule 5 draft. He pitched 40 innings at AAA for the Marlins, 332 ERA and a 330 BFIP. So that should definitely translate to at least average in my opinion. And he's in the back end of the bullpen, but I think he can really like step up and be in like the Banks, Kirkland, Alvarado tier by the end of the year. Like really big fan of him. Like pretty deep mix. So I think he used to be a starter, so maybe he could like go back to starting. But for now, he's a reliever. I think he probably ends up as a reliever for his career. So yeah, good arm in that bullpen. As for the win projections, like a lot of guys projected for a good amount of wins, like Schwarber 6 wins, Wheeler 5 wins, Turner 5 wins, Harper 4.5 wins, Sanchez 4 wins, and then a lot of guys like 1, 2, 3 wins, like Lazard and Salt like 2.5 wins each round. So the win projection for the Phillies is 95 and 67, which is essentially second place in the and also probably getting a bye. Although it is close with the Cubs. The thing with the Phillies though is that they're the one team that I'm the least confident in. Like if I had to pick one of these like playoff teams, like I think these are all playoff teams probably. Like here, if I had to pick like one of these playoff teams to like miss the playoffs, or like maybe like one of these teams at the top to miss the playoffs, I'd probably pick the Phillies, just because it's a lot of guys like that are old and like on the downswing. Like for example, like Wheeler, like Wheeler has been consistent, but he's gonna miss the years. Like maybe he only gives you like 3, or actually let's say Beecher only give 4 wins. Like Turner, like pretty lucky last year, so let's say he only gives you like 3 wins or something. Harper a little bit on the downswing, let's say he only gives you 4 wins, and then Sanchez is let's say just keep it at 4 wins, and then Lazarez keep it at that. It always goes to you like maybe he bottoms out and is like 1 win player. Then like also like Ballmer not like too high on, like maybe 1 win, then all of a sudden it's like I guess 91 is still like playoff team. So they do have like that ceiling. But I do think there's definitely like a ton of bottoming out potential. Like just for example, like more maybe is more of a replacement level player like Banks, Sosa, Romuto, Nola, Marsh, Bohm, Garcia. Like all of these guys, in my opinion, have a chance to be a replacement level. And like a pretty decent chance. So I do think the Phillies like do have a chance to sort of like maybe like be out of it by the deadline and potentially sell off at the deadline. And while that would be like not great, that does like open up opportunities for like Aiden Miller to get some reps at big leagues, like Gabriel Cronus, who again like I'm really high on, could also like get some big league time. So a lot of guys who like could uh like if they do bottom out, then I think it will probably like crash and burn. And I do like think that that's possible. At the end of the day, like it's still a ton of talent on the roster, like just from a name value standpoint. And uh the win projection is still like 95 wins. They're still projected for a ton of wins. And uh, so it's just like a very good team all around. Although like a lot of potential for bust in my opinion. So yeah, that's all I have for the Phillies. Thank you for watching and goodbye.